Hello, and welcome to part 4 of our 4-part video series for IT service providers. A video series about cybersecurity for smaller businesses and how to protect those businesses from a cyber attack. The cybersecurity protection that we're going to present here includes presenting password theft, blocking phishing attacks, and protection from network intrusion attempts. So first, a little review of the cybersecurity situation. We see that the increase in cybersecurity crime is alarming. This year, we expect to see about $11.5 trillion of loss for businesses through cybercrime. Cybercriminals use many different techniques to attack businesses and steal from businesses. There are techniques such as the brute force attack, where the criminal will try and hack through the network router into the internet. There are password theft attacks, where the criminal will attempt to steal a password to get access to the network. The most popular is the phishing attack, where criminals are sending out messages, fake messages, pretending to be some well-known business or bank, and providing a link with an urgent requirement to click on the link to solve a problem, and that link is going to install a virus on the computer, which gives the criminal remote access to the computer. There are other methods, for example, distributed denial of service, which criminals will use to disrupt a business and even blackmail a business by demanding payment to remove the attack. There's an attack called a phishing, which is a combination of voice plus phishing, where the criminal will make calls and then get information to send a password, send an email with a link that installs the Trojan virus. There's the man-in-the-middle attack, where public Wi-Fi, such as that in an airport or a hotel, is interfered with, and the criminal will capture data to see what the people are sending over the network. We have spyware and keylogger, where a virus is installed on a computer and it captures the keystrokes and sends those to the criminal. The criminal is looking for bank account logins, that type of thing. There are a whole other range of viruses, SQL injection malware that the criminals will use to attack a business or attack an individual. And the criminal is looking to do one of three things. First of all, steal information. That information might be able to sell on the dark web. The criminal is also looking to blackmail the business. So in this case, steal data, but then threaten to expose it on the web if a payment is not made. And this is particularly effective against healthcare businesses because the patient data is very sensitive. And so the medical businesses will pay pretty quickly to prevent that being exposed. There's also extortion, where the criminal is using techniques such as ransomware to lock the data that a company uses for its day-to-day business and then demand a ransom in order to provide the key to unlock the data. Now, the three methods are shown here. These are the most popular methods for attack and the most successful methods. Phishing, external attack, and password. Let's talk about the external attack first. This is responsible for about 25% of successful attacks. And the criminal is trying to access the business network from the internet. And usually if a business has a firewall installed, then that will block this type of attack. We have password theft, where a criminal will steal a password, log into the network remotely, and then get access to the server. That's successful in around 10% of cyber attacks. By far the most successful method is the phishing attack, and this is used in about 65% of successful attacks. In this case, the criminal will send out messages with links to install a Trojan virus on the computer. The direct attack has 3 points of access. One is via the network router. The criminal will try and hack into the router using known exploits. And once accessed the router, the criminal will get access to the business network. The second method is to try and access through a remote access port, which staff might use to connect to the network remotely. And that can usually be blocked by encrypting the port using a virtual private network. And the third point of access is through a third party, which might have a connection to the business network. That might be a supplier, might be a customer, or it might be a device such as an IoT device, Internet of Things device, which communicates with the internet to send information. It could be, for example, an industrial controller for a manufacturing plant. Password theft is successful in around 10% of cases. We've had some high-profile attacks using password theft recently, casinos in Las Vegas, and the criminals use social media to gather information about employees and then pretend to be an employee when requesting a replacement password for a lost password. And this worked for the criminals with 2 different casinos in Las Vegas. The answer to stop this is two-factor authentication, which means that a password is provided, but then a second code is provided, which is obtained from a mobile phone. And if the casinos had had two-factor authentication, then that would have prevented the attack. Phishing uses fake messages like the one shown, popular companies that people know, maybe banks, maybe credit card companies, with some urgent message that requires a solution, and a link is provided to click to solve that problem. Well, the link goes to the criminal's computer, downloads a virus called a Trojan virus, and installs it on the computer. And this gives the criminal remote access to that computer. The computer doesn't know, the computer user is not aware that the criminal has access to that computer. And so the criminal is free to try and attack the servers. Some email systems like Gmail send these messages to spam when they're identified, but occasionally we see these messages and we have to avoid clicking the links in these messages. The solution to this type of attack is going to be explained later in this document. The procedure that the Trojan virus uses to attack the computer system is shown in the diagram. After installation of the Trojan virus, it calls the criminal to request instructions, and then the criminal replies with hacking commands to access the data servers. This bypasses the firewall because it's an outbound communication, and firewalls are normally configured to block only inbound communications. It's worthwhile noting that business server passwords don't block a phishing attack. Many businesses have Microsoft servers with Microsoft Active Directory login. However, when the Trojan virus is installed on the computer, The criminal is looking for low-level network access to the server. And so the criminal is going to send data packets over the network, looking for the server. And when the server is found, the criminal is going to use operating system exploits to try and hack into the server and then steal data or encrypt the data files. The diagram shows the products that many businesses install to protect themselves from a cyber attack. On the right, products that the smaller businesses install. Antivirus software, 58% of smaller businesses. Firewalls, 49% of smaller businesses. VPNs for remote access, data encryption is 44% of small businesses. And then email security is 25% of small businesses. Large businesses have additional security measures to protect them, and those are outlined in the left-hand box. One is network intrusion monitoring and alerting. So the larger businesses have a product or software which is monitoring the network data traffic, looking for intrusions, and then sending an alert if an intrusion is disconnected. Next is network edge access control, which limits the type of access that a user or a device can have to the network. It maybe blocks part of the network, and also the access to the internet might be blocked or partially blocked. Next, we have device authentication and user authentication, usually two-factor authentication, which means the password plus a code from a mobile phone. And those three types of protection are found in a technology called Zero Trust network access. And I'll talk more about that over the next few slides. So to summarize small businesses, all businesses have firewalls, antivirus software, VPN, virtual private network for secure remote access, email security, and maybe a cloud service to exchange documents with virus checking. Zero Trust network access is very important for businesses. Large businesses have this technology installed. Most small businesses do not. What does it do? The Zero Trust has four principles. The first is it will permit access only for authorized devices and users. It requires identity authentication each time a device or user connects to the network. Users usually require multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, and this will prevent access using a stolen password. Users and devices are given access only to specific network resources that they need to perform their tasks. This will limit the potential damage that a compromised device might cause. Users and devices have restrictions imposed on internet access with the objective of blocking access to compromised websites and potential attack vectors. Finally, we have continuous monitoring of network activity to identify potential intrusion threats and send alerts to the administrator so that effective action can be taken quickly. Zero Trust can be viewed as a protection shell around the network. In fact, it's a three-layer shell. The outer layer is intrusion monitoring. So any attempt to access the network is monitored, and the device that is doing the connection is identified. If not identified, then an alert can be generated. The second layer is authentication. In this layer, we will verify the device and also the user. So the device authentication will be some identifier. The user authentication will be hopefully two-factor authentication, a password plus a code from a mobile phone. Finally, the inner layer is access control, and this determines what the device or user can access within the network and what can be accessed on the internet. Now, let's examine a cyber protection plan for smaller businesses that an IT service company could provide. The plan I'm going to outline here has 4 operational steps and 8 technical steps. I'll go through them one by one. The first is staff cyber awareness training. This is very important because 74% of successful data breaches are made via the business staff. So the staff are the first line of our cybersecurity defense. And so the training for the staff should make staff aware of the problem and aware of the methods that cyber criminals will use to attack them. The information that can be provided can also include the best practices to manage the situation of a cyber attack and also explain methods of connecting to the network in a secure manner using, for example, two-factor authentication. We also want staff to report any potential attack that they see. And for that, we would provide them with a technical hotline to a person who is familiar with cybersecurity problems and can follow up very quickly. Because in many cases with a cyber attack, time is of the essence. Next, we have cybersecurity best practices. We have operational best practices and technical best practices. Operational best practices, for example, might be don't allow a personal device to be connected to the business network. We don't know if that device is compromised. Next, we don't want a device, a computer from the business network being removed and used elsewhere because that device might become compromised connecting to a different network. If staff have to work in an office and outside the office, they should have 2 computers so that the office computer is never removed and the staff home computer is never brought into the office. Information can be shared via a secure cloud system. And so we include the staff training, the technical hotline, and also regular meetings between the business management and cybersecurity experts to monitor the business network. Technical best practices are pretty obvious. Install antivirus software on all computers, ensure that security upgrades are applied. We want to have a firewall to block access to the network for a direct attack. We want zero trust cybersecurity to be used to authenticate our users, two-factor authentication to access the network. We want to monitor network traffic. We have issues such as USB ports. They're a potential hazard. And so we want to put locks in computer USB ports. One of the techniques that criminals will use is to send USB flash sticks to employees in a business with labels, for example, indicating that they came from Amazon. The flash sticks have a virus installed, and when plugged into a computer, the virus is installed on the computer. A flash stick has an option to run a program when it's plugged into a computer. And Tests have been made sending these out by cybersecurity businesses, and they found that around 45% of the flash sticks that are sent out are plugged into a computer. And so this is a very effective method of cyber attack. We would like to see that we have a ransomware plan to recover from a ransomware attack, and that would also require data backup, which is made hourly or daily in order to be able to recover the information. So the next step is to prepare and test a ransomware recovery plan. And this plan will go into action if we have a ransomware attack. It will allow us to recover the information without paying the ransom and move on without having to worry about further ransomware attacks. It requires preparation. We have to have recovery support staff ready when we need them. We have to write a recovery procedure. We need daily or hourly data backups off-site. It must not be at the same site because the criminal will try to encrypt those as well. We want to keep maybe 1 to 3 months of backups off-site. And then we have to prepare multiple disk drives for installation in all the computers, and we want to test the procedure periodically. So when an attack occurs, the first step is to disconnect the network from the internet, because that's how the attacker is getting access to the network. We're going to replace all the computer disk drives in servers and workstations, because one of those disk drives probably has a virus which allows the criminal to access the network. And then we have to restore the server data from backups. The most recent backups may well be corrupted, and so we may have to look through to find a clean backup. After the attack, after the recovery process, we must not reconnect the network to the internet until we're satisfied that the point of entry has been removed, because the first thing that will happen is that the criminal will try to attack the network. We should investigate how the attack happened. Maybe it was a Trojan virus, and we've removed that by replacing the disk drives. Maybe it was a stolen password, and so we need to go through our password management system to change all the passwords in the system. One other operational step that companies can take is cybersecurity insurance, which might mitigate the risk of an attack. And the insurer will have a series of requirements in order to provide the insurance. Requirements that would include a firewall, two-factor authentication, staff cybersecurity awareness training, frequent security patch updates to all software. Computers will have antivirus, and the business will have a tested recovery plan. And so those will be the requirements of the insurer. Now, let's look at technical aspects. Many businesses have these already, but it's worthwhile mentioning them as we go through. First is antivirus installed on all computers, not only servers, but also workstations. We hope the antivirus will prevent the installation of Trojan virus, but it's a very valuable software to have installed. We want to update software and firmware security patches, and there are many points of update within a business network. We have operating systems on the servers and workstations, and we want to ensure that we can configure these for automatic updates. Microsoft products allow us to do this. If we have older computers in our network, then they will not have security updates, for example, a Windows XP or some product like that. These must be replaced with the latest version of software from the manufacturer. Many different products in our network have firmware, and this includes routers, wireless access points, managed switches, firewalls, and so we must periodically check the firmware and install updates. We want to ensure that we have a firewall installed to protect the access from the internet, and also have a VPN server, a virtual private network server for remote access, which will encrypt the data connection to remote staff computers. This will prevent or limit an attack using the remote connection. The offsite data backup must not be accessible from the business network, and so the backup will be made using a write-only software connection. And if we need to recover the backup, then we're going to transfer the backup to a storage device and send over to the network through a different channel. So the backup cannot be in a position to be corrupted by the attacker. Wherever possible, we want to move applications and data to cloud servers. The cloud storage businesses spend a lot of money on cybersecurity, and they're much more secure than a business network. So if we can put application software and our data on cloud servers, then we know it's going to be more secure and very hard for the criminal to attack. Now, as part of our zero trust access control, we will have two-factor authentication. This is very important. In fact, most businesses consider this the single most important security step that any business can take. And we all know, because we use it, if we access bank accounts, if we access large businesses, they require us to enter a password and a username, and then get a code from a mobile phone and enter that code. And so if a password is stolen, the attacker will not get access because the attacker doesn't have access to the code from the mobile phone. So it's a very effective method of protecting our network. Zero Trust also has the tools to stop a phishing attack, and these are access control tools. Most large companies lock down the network to limit what can be accessed, and so we can determine that the employees need access to certain websites. We give access to those websites and block all other access to the internet. And this effectively blocks any chance of a Trojan virus being installed, because if the employee receives a phishing message and clicks on the link, the browser cannot communicate with the computer that belongs to the criminal, and so cannot install the Trojan virus. And it's a very effective method. Some businesses such as Google will provide two computers, one with open internet access, but the access to the network is blocked, and another with access to the business network, but with very limited access to the internet, because companies like Google are big targets for attackers, and so they have to be very, very careful. Now, Zero Trust also monitors our network traffic, and we're looking for three aspects of intrusion. One is an unknown device that connects to the network, and this might be some wireless device that connects to our wireless network because an attacker has been able to hack into the network. And we have to recognize that this new device is connected and take steps to remove it. We must remember that because of our access control, that device will not have access to the network, but we will identify it. Another situation we want to identify is repeated failed attempts for user authentication. Maybe someone has stolen a password and they're trying to log in with the password, but they don't have the OTP code from the phone. And so there will be repeated failed attempts, and we may have to maybe block access for a workstation that is originating these failed attempts. We also want to know if any attempt is made to breach one of our access control rules, because it might be the case that a Trojan virus is allowing access to a computer and the criminal is trying to access the IP addresses of our servers. And so we want to recognize that that is occurring and take steps to stop it. And so we have a series of reports. We have alerts that are sent out to the administrator. And so we want warning if anything is happening to our network that might cause the network to be breached. So in summary, this diagram shows the upgraded infrastructure. We've included everything there: our security patches, our antivirus, our VPN, our two-factor authentication, and we rely on the Zero Trust gateway to protect our network from attacks such as password theft and phishing. The IT service provider will need a list of skills to implement this cybersecurity plan, but almost all IT service providers have these skills: computer installation and configuration, network infrastructure design and installation, firewall implementation, zero trust gateway implementation, virtual private networks, offsite backups, monitoring and reporting, system maintenance, technical and operational staff training, remote technical support, troubleshooting, and email services. There will be some initial services to upgrade the infrastructure, provide the training for staff, and prepare and test a ransomware recovery plan. Ongoing services include monitoring for intrusions, ensuring that upgrades and updates to software are applied in a timely manner, and be on call to take any alerts that staff identify. Now the Authonet Zero Trust products. This provides a brief overview. The Authonet product authenticates and verifies all staff and device access. It applies two-factor authentication to staff access to prevent an attack using password theft. It blocks a phishing attack by locking down access to the network and to the internet. We're going to monitor the business network for unauthorized intrusions. And the most important part is that this product is affordable for small businesses. It's in the price range of an entry-level firewall. And so at least half the small businesses in the USA have firewalls. And so this type of equipment will be appropriate for them. It can also be installed by any IT service provider. There are two products: the A300, which is a 300 megabit throughput product, and the A1000, which is a 1 gigabit throughput product. So both products have identical features, they differ in performance, and the performance is chosen for the size of the business network. The Authonet Zero Trust gateway is installed in the network so that all devices have to pass through the gateway. We're going to authenticate all devices and all users. We're also going to authenticate IoT devices, which might be production equipment that communicates with the internet. The Authonet Zero Trust gateway is in fact a network bridge. Which means that data packets pass from the LAN side to the WAN side. However, it controls access of those data packets. Initially, when devices are connected, it will pass DHCP requests to the network's data server, and that will respond with the IP address. That ensures that the device can communicate with services on the business network. Now, once the device has an IP address, it will not have access to the network until the device and the user have been authenticated. And so they have to go through an authentication process and then have access to the business network. There are rules which determine the access, and so those rules will be imposed on each device and user to determine what can be accessed and what cannot be accessed, both on the local network and on the internet. And if there's any attempt to breach any of those rules, an alert is logged and sent out to the supervisor. The Authonet Zero Trust Gateway has a number of features which are divided into sections. First of all, we have the login page customization, because the authentication process is done through a login page. We have authentication procedures, several different types of procedure depending on the authentication process we want to use. We have local network, device, and user access, which specifies what that device or user can access in the local network and what is blocked. We have a similar type of access control for the internet to specify what IP addresses or domains can be accessed and what are blocked. We have configuration for the device and the user, and we add both those to our database. Reporting and alerting includes a series of reports on the status of the network, and where selected, alerts are sent out to the supervisor. Finally, we have cloud management, which provides a remote management service that can be used by IT service providers who want to remotely manage a customer's network and also monitor that network for any type of breach. The functionality is shown in this diagram. The Authonet products first receive a connection from a device. There's a test to verify if that device is in the allowed list. Any device connected to the network has to be in the allowed list. If not, then it's an unrecognized device. And so that is an error log and can generate an alert for the supervisor. Once the device is recognized, we check if that device has a user associated or if the device is allowed to access the network without a user. If a user is associated, then we need to authenticate that user. So we display the captive portal and request the credential of that user. If configured, we also request the one-time password as part of the two-factor authentication. When the authentication process has been completed, the user and devices are connected to the firewall, which will apply the rules of access both to the business network and also to the internet. The administrator has a dedicated connection to provide the configuration information for this network. The A300 product has 5 Ethernet ports. The WAN port connects to the business network, and LAN 4 is always the administrator, dedicated administrator port. LANs 1, 2, and 3 connect to user devices. The diagram shows how the Authonet A300 is connected into the business network. The business network is shown together with the user devices and the administrator device. The A1000, a slightly larger product with 6 Ethernet ports. Once again, LAN 4 is the dedicated connection for the supervisor. And this diagram shows the connection of this device in the network. There's also an optional cloud management and monitoring system for Authonet products. One account can manage multiple devices, and so this is a tool that an IT service provider can use to offer a managed service to the customers of that business. There are no additional charges with Authonet, unlike many products in the market. There is no monthly or annual fee for licenses. There is free online support. Software upgrades are free. There's no charge for product documentation and no charge for training. That's provided as part of our series of free videos. Let's remember that the Authonet Zero Trust product does not replace the firewall. The firewall is essential to block direct attacks into the network. It complements the firewall. The firewall blocks around 25% of what might be successful attacks. The Authonet Zero Trust blocks around 75% of what might be successful attacks. And those are divided between password theft, phishing, and other types of intrusion that are detected and blocked. There are 4 benefits for businesses that Authonet Zero Trust provides. The first is the business can upgrade the security at a low cost. So there is no high price to add the extra security features. Second, the Authonet Zero Trust is easy to install. The IT engineer does not require any special training. It's pretty intuitive to configure the unit. Third, Authonet Zero Trust has the 3 essential cybersecurity features that we need: 2-factor authentication to stop password theft, access control to prevent phishing attacks, and monitoring of intrusions with an alert. And finally, the Authonet series of products has cloud support so that IT service providers can remotely manage their clients' installations. Further information can be obtained from the Authonet manual, which can be downloaded at that link. We have product data sheets available on the website, as well as introductory videos for business owners and videos for IT service providers. And don't forget our free online support. If you have any questions about this presentation, please send us a message to info@authonet.com. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching, and please, if you haven't seen the earlier videos in this series, do check them out, and if you have any questions, send us those questions. Thank you for watching.